What you need to know about your burden of proof in a relapsing-remitting multiple sclerosis disability insurance claim. Multiple sclerosis is a central nervous system disorder. It involves inflammation, demyelinization, and degenerative changes that will lead to disability. In fact, 85 to 90% of those in the early stages of MS have relapsing or remitting symptoms. Those are often associated with MS inflammation. And if left untreated, these episodes of relapsing-remitting episodes, they're going to develop into a progressive worsening, and that's known as secondary MS. The frequency of the relapses can be an indicator of disability, and it's crucial that you get early treatment for MS to obviously minimize the relapses in the early stages of MS. The mechanism of the central nervous system repair and remodeling can partially compensate for MS-induced damage in the early stages, but eventually that rate of repair is going to fail to keep up, which is going to lead to steady progression of physical, cognitive, and even psychological symptoms. Now, research has shown that relapses in the first few years of the disease have been associated with future levels of disability. So, as the length of time between the first and the second relapse shortens, the more likely it is that your disability is going to progress and progress quickly. Now, you can have issues with depression, fatigue, and anxiety. Obviously, the physical issues associated with MS can also cause disability. But what I want you to understand is how disability carriers look at these claims. They're not in the business of paying relapsing and remitting MS claims in the early stages of the disease. Why not? Well, it's the nature of the relapsing and remitting symptoms that are problematic and the length of time between each of these episodes. That's going to play potentially into a claim denial, which is why I want you to understand this. Relapsing symptoms can develop over a period of few days, followed by a leveling, and then they can subside over the next several weeks or even several months. Now, during this period, there is neurological repair compensating for the central nervous system damage. You very well may be disabled during the relapsing period, but not disabled during the remitting period. So there can be a complete recovery in the early stages, but at some point in time, as I've indicated, there's going to become an incomplete recovery as your neurological reserves are depleted. And then finally, the progression is going to happen quickly as the neurological depletion is basically finished. Now, the problem period here is the period between the relapses and the progression of the symptoms after each of the relapses. You can see me using my hands here. It's the length of time, it's the nature of the symptoms. Now, many policies or plans want you to satisfy what's called an elimination period before you collect your disability benefits. So let's say that you have symptoms. You file a claim, and during the common 90-day elimination period, your symptoms subside and improve, and you return to functionality. Since you weren't disabled during the entire 90-day elimination period, the disability insurance claim is going to be denied. Now, let me give you another example. Let's say you complete the 90-day elimination period, and then your symptoms subside. Your disability carrier is going to say, okay, well, you satisfied the elimination period, but you're no longer disabled, so we don't owe you any benefits. You can see that picking the right date to become disabled is really important in a relapsing remitting case. Now, unfortunately, it becomes easier to prove that you're disabled as the disease progresses, but you may not be able to work in that middle ground, if you will. They're going to want to see the progression of the common symptoms of MS in your medical record. So I want you to document this. Are you having increased sleep disorders, vertigo, involuntary crying or emotions? Do you have impaired speech? Are you having any kind of cognitive impairment, visual issues, tremors, bowel problems, bladder problems, stiffness and painful spasm throughout your body, poor balance and coordination, sensitivity to temperature, pain, fatigue, and exercise intolerance? I think that you should create an Excel spreadsheet with a list of your symptoms on one side and then note the date and impact of your functionality on the top. So what you want to do is keep a chart, and you're going to keep that, and obviously you want to give a copy of that to your physician at each visit, and you want to submit it to the carrier when you file a claim. It becomes a visual of your symptoms. Now, as part of the record keeping, you want to document the frequency, duration, and the length of the symptoms, and you want to chart the relapsing and remitting episodes. Again, this is very visual in my view. You want to be sure to document what problems you're having between the episodes of relapsing and remitting MS. So we want to talk about your functionality. And it's key to document examples, specific examples of how your symptoms are impacting your ability to do your own occupational duties or any other occupational duties. I think that this documentation will help determine what day to claim that you're disabled. Now, of course, you have to have the support of your physician, but you need, I think, the assistance of an experienced ERISA disability attorney, because we've got to figure out what is the right date. When did you start losing wages so that you meet the disability requirements? What's the best day to claim that you're disabled? I think it's important because you need to understand what your policy says. What's the policy terms for elimination? What's the definition of disability? What's the definition of occupation? Are there any limits for recovery under the subjective medical condition or a mental nervous condition policy or plan limitation? You need to know that in advance, because that will also help us pick the right date. Reviewing your medical records, of course, is crucial because they have to be complete and accurate, and they have to document your disability as that term is defined in your specific policy or plan. And obviously, I think you need to have somebody to review your charting, because again, this all comes down to picking the right date. If you pick the wrong date, it's hard to correct that. And part of this is anticipating and addressing the defenses that the carrier or plan could raise to your claim. And you need to do that before you stop work and apply for your benefits. If you have any questions in regard to your policy or plan, questions about the day you should stop working, questions about filling out the forms, questions about appealing a wrongful denial, contact me today at 727-894-3188 for a complimentary consultation. Timing is everything in a relapsing remitting MS disability insurance claim.